it was partly Sakharov's knowledge of the potential impact of his thermonuclear device that turned him into a human rights activist. Russia today has no Sakharov. It has propagandists who talk about the use of nuclear arms with flippancy unimaginable in the Soviet period. Russia can reduce America to nuclear ash, boasted Dmitry Kiselov, the anchor of Russia's main television channel, Rossiya. After Stalin's death, the personal power of Soviet leaders was checked by the collective Politburo. Now Kiselov said a decision to use nuclear arms will be taken personally by Putin, who has the undoubted support of the Russian people. In a documentary about the return of Crimea, Putin admitted he was ready to make such a decision if NATO forces tried to interfere in the peninsula. The situation in Russia today is more dangerous than it was in the Cold War. The Soviet Union and America both emerged as winners from the Second World War and did not suffer from an inferiority complex. But Russia's current rulers were shaped by what they consider to be their loss of the Cold War and their feeling of rejection by the West, despite all their fabulous wealth. A mixture of hostility and jealousy has triumphed in Russia 30 years after Mikhail Gorbachev ended the Cold War, opened up the country and proclaimed the supremacy of human values over the interests of the state. The withdrawal of Soviet forces from Eastern Europe, which today is deemed a fatal mistake in official textbooks, was greeted with approval not just by the West but by Russia's own people, those same people who now approve of Putin's bombing of Syria, designed to demonstrate the country's resurgence and to project power outside the former Soviet territory for the first time since its defeat in Afghanistan. The end of communism gave many the hope that Russia would become a normal country and join the civilized world. As a drama student in Moscow at the time, I remember that feeling of hope. It was one of the happiest periods of my life. The world was opening before me, and my friends and I eagerly embraced our new freedom to travel and ability to make contact with people from the other side of the Iron Curtain. Theatre companies from Europe brought their productions to Moscow, and we could not only see them, we could talk to their actors and directors. I remember the excitement of meeting 2 Swedish actors from Ingmar Bergman's company. These were my first proper foreigners, and the fact that I could talk to them was more important than what we said. For me, the shortages of food in the shops were fully compensated by this exhilarating new sense of possibility. History was being made in Moscow, and we were in the middle of it. Looking back at that period, I realize now that this sense of excitement was experienced by a narrow circle of people. For the majority of the population, the collapse of the Soviet Union was associated with uncertainty and a sharp decline in living standards. But at the time, many of my generation felt that the future belonged to us. Travelling from Moscow to England by train for the first time through Eastern Europe, passing through East and West Berlin no longer divided by the wall, I felt proud to be Russian. I was coming from a free country that no longer oppressed others, and I could finally discover the world. The attempted coup by hardline communists in August 1991 seemed like a last spasm of the old regime, and its defeat triggered a celebration of freedom. On Christmas Day 1991, I watched the Soviet flag go down over the Kremlin towers and listened to Gorbachev bid farewell to the Soviet Union. Destiny so determined that when I found myself at the helm of this state, it was already clear that something was wrong in this country. We had a lot of everything: land, oil and gas, other natural resources, and intellect and talent in abundance. But we were living much worse off than people in other industrialized countries, suffocating in the shackles of the bureaucratic command system. All the half-hearted reforms fell through, one after another. This country was going nowhere, and we couldn't possibly go on living the way we had. We had to change everything radically. Gorbachev could not save the country, but he paid tribute to what had been achieved. Free elections have become a reality. Free press, freedom of worship, representative legislatures, and a multi-party system have all become a reality. Human rights are being treated as a supreme principle and top priority. We're now living in a new world. An end has been put to the Cold War.